All right, we're gonna check out this video. Yeah. I haven't. Yes. I haven't watched it, so I wanted to kind of like discover it with you guys. So if it ends up being like, blah, we'll roll and we'll adjust. But I think it's gonna be good. So, yeah. A little bit of music.
All right, well, welcome back, everybody, to our third lecture on the psychology of well-being. I hope you've all been thinking about the insights that you've learned throughout the past week and all your biases, and you're going to be able to use them. This week, we're going to have some actual concrete intentional strategies that you guys can use, and so you're going to have lots of homework this week, so be prepared. But just to kind of go through, again, just a reminder of where we were. First lecture, we went through all these misconceptions about happiness, these things that we think make us happy.
Let me pause it while I figure that out, because that's not going to be enough. Maybe it is. Maybe I was wrong.
That we don't. Last week, we talked about why our expectations are so bad.
Right.
We did a little bit of a swap on the third one here, because today what I realize is that part of the stuff that's going to make us happy is actually finding ways to overcome our biases. And so this is going to be the first week where you're getting concrete strategies of like actually making yourself happy. But the real shocking stuff that makes you happy is going to come next week. And I keep switching around, but we'll keep you on your toes. Back to our review. We started in the beginning with all this stuff that we think of as our goals that make us happy, and we said most of these don't make us as happy as we think. And we inserted this new term of miswanting, this idea that we don't want we're wanting the wrong stuff, and we are sort of miswanting stuff that we don't necessarily think is going to make us happy or that doesn't make us as happy as we think, and we're not wanting all the good stuff. And so we asked last time, why does this miswanting occur? Why are our minds so messed up? We said, indeed, our minds are messed up. There are all these annoying features that seem to be leading us astray. And we went through a couple of these different ones. We said our minds have these intuitions that are often really, really wrong. We have to fight against that. We saw that our minds are not thinking in terms of absolutes. They're judging relative to these reference points, and that messes us up a lot because we're often comparing against reference points that aren't good. We also learned that our mind has this really terrible tendency.
So the reference point that she's talking about is basically comes down to social comparison. So let's see if I can do this. If we're exposing ourselves to like a lot of social media of like really beautiful, like rich people, we're judging our own success and beauty off of those reference points. And so you can, like, our happiness gap is, our well-being goes, right? Whereas if we are surrounded by people more similar to us, or where we feel like we're better looking, or we make more money than them, our well-being actually goes up. And that's because the way we judge, or the way we make comparisons about ourselves and judgments about ourself is based off of reference points instead of absolute truths. So that's the video you missed. I just summarized 30 minutes. Yeah, we'll see how well that works.
To get used to stuff. And in fact, there's this corollary that we don't even realize that our minds do this, but it does this all the time. That means that the stuff that starts out as being good stops being good really soon because we kind of get used to it. And so we ended last time with this question of like, how can we overcome these annoying features? What strategies can we use to do this? And that is what we're going to reveal and talk about today, how we can overcome these annoying features or these cognitive biases. And we're going to do that in a particular way, which is we're going to use a set of strategies that we can intentionally use to overcome our biases. And I'm putting that word intentionally kind of in bold and in color, in part because this is the part that really matters. Our minds are naturally not going to want to use any of these strategies. These are the things that we need to do effortfully and intentionally to make things better. And we're kind of hearkening back to the quote that we started with in our first lecture, in this How of Happiness lecture by Sonia Lyubomirsky, who sort of talked about how we have this pie chart of the things we can intentionally control. And she notes that we have this, with these intentional, effortful activities, we can have a powerful effect of how happy we are, even much more so than our genetics or much more so than our circumstances. But it's these things, intentional, effortful, they're not going to be habits immediately. We're going to have to work to get them to be that, right? And so with that, we sort of jump into these strategies that you're going to.
So as I'm hearing her say this, I'm thinking instantly about like, okay, how can we like roll these strategies that we're about to learn maybe into Habitica? So for those of us who do Habitica together, there might be some really cool things we choose like individually to add. And for those of you who don't yet do Habitica, I mean, why not? Come join us. It's really fun. It's free. Yeah, it builds habits over time, hence Habitica, through gamifying our lives. So it's pretty great.
Intentionally use. And as I said at the beginning, this is going to be your homework. You're to be thinking about these things really in terms of habits that you can implement this week and which ones will actually work for you. But we're going to kind of go backwards through strategies that help the biases from the reverse direction. And if you recall, the main thing we were focused on at the end last time was this idea that we get used to stuff and that sucks because we get used to the stuff that's really good in our lives and we want to kind of feel it being new and so on. And so how can we, in some sense, get over getting used to stuff, overcome this horrible thing of hedonic adaptation, this idea that like we are happy at first when we get something, but that happiness goes away. Just as a reminder for folks who missed last time, we saw lots of graphs that look like this. We have this awesome thing that makes us happy, something like marriage, and it makes us happy for a little bit, and then over time that happiness goes down. And what we saw is that basically happens in like all these awesome cases, from like having an awesome job to having tons of money, getting into Yale, as you guys all laughed about. Did you wake up this morning and say, holy cow, oh my God, I'm at Yale? I bet very few of you did that because hedonic adaptation. And all this hedonic adaptation, we have to awesome stuff. But how can we use strategies to overcome this stuff, right? We'll start at the bottom on strategies we can use to stop hedonic adaptation for awesome stuff, because the awesome stuff that we talk about is a particularly insidious thing. Stuff is usually like a thing that we buy, a nice car, a new house, and it has this terrible feature where it's not really dynamic at all. It doesn't change at all, and it sticks around, and that means stuff that we buy is sort of the worst culprit of our hedonic adaptation. And so when we think about the strategy we're going to use, it's going to be that we're going to stop investing in stuff in the first place. Ooh. From now on, as you think about the kinds of things you can do to make yourselves happy, think about not investing in awesome stuff as much. Why? Well, as we were saying, first of all, it doesn't make us as happy as we think. We think the new house is going to make us super, super happy, but in practice it doesn't. And it doesn't in part because it sticks around. It's the same house day in and day out, and we kind of just get used to it. Same thing with all the other awesome stuff we have, awesome cars and so on. They end up sticking around, and that means we get bored with them. And there's a wonderful quip by the psychologist Dan Gilbert, who you heard about last time. It's part of us believe that the new car is better because it lasts longer. But in fact, that's the worst thing about the new car. It will stay around to disappoint you. This is the problem with stuff that sticks around. We get used to it. And so the new car, it hangs out. We stop paying attention to it. Like the longer it lasts, in some sense, the more time we have to get used to it, which is sort of boring. And so the first strategy we're going to think of, and this is for thinking about new things in your life, is don't invest in stuff. Invest in...
I was just going to say, like, instead invest in experiences, but I was hoping she would go there, because if the solution is also not to invest in experiences, I'm, like, going to be crushed. Because I love adventure.
Instead, in things that are not going to stick around, namely experiences. What do I mean about experiences? But just like anything you could pay money to that gives you happiness, that's not a thing, that's like something you experience. So going on vacation, or spending some time at an awesome art gallery, or going to Europe to check out the wonderful paintings there, or going to a concert, even something short like going out to eat or enjoying sort of a delicious dessert. Those are the kinds of things that are experiences, and they're not going to stick around. You're not going to have time to adapt to them. And Dan Gilbert also quips about this. He notes, a new car sticks around to disappoint you, but a trip to Europe is over. It evaporates. It has the good sense to go away and leave you with nothing but your wonderful memory. And it seems like our intuition is like, well, why would we want to invest in an awesome vacation? We could get a car. That car is going to stick around and be useful to us in the future. But again, this is a spot where our minds are kind of giving us the wrong feedback. We actually get more happiness than we expect out of experiences. Like the fact that the vacation is only a week long is a good thing. Like the fact that you can't be in this room looking at this art for very long means you don't have time to get used to it. Same thing with a concert. I think the longest concert I went to was 3 hours, and that was good. If it lasted any longer, it'd be terrible. Same thing with like, a delicious glass of wine. Some of you want it to keep going, but if it kept going, that would be bad. You actually want stuff that goes away. And so that's the intuition, that experiences should make us happier because they go away. But is this really true? Are people who invest in experiences actually happier? Like, is it the case that people who buy more of these are happier than people who buy more of that?
I really hope so.
And for individual people, if you were to invest in experiences over stuff, would you feel happier? Well, this is what Leif van Boven and Tom Gilovich studied. They actually had people come in and say, think about an experiential or a material purchase you made that's over $100. So you can think about this, and specifically something you bought to make you happy, not something like, not some textbook that you had to buy because you had to. Like, think of something that you've ever spent that like actually you got to be happy, right? It says, when you think about this, how happy does it make you? Just like very simply, like, does it make you not at all happy or very much? And they asked other things like, how good of an investment was it, and so on. And so here's what they find is that when you think about how happy it makes you, how happy does it make you? Well, you get higher ratings for just thinking about the experiential purchase. Does it contribute to your happiness now? Like, even like still when you think back to it, does it contribute? Yes, these numbers are bigger for experiences. And also, like, was it money well spent in retrospect? Like, did you actually think it was a better use of your money? And what you find is that yes, it was. So all these measures of happiness, both at the time and retrospectively, you think of experiences as better. What they worried about, and
it's kind of fascinating that this sounds like it's true no matter your personality type, whether you're introverted or extroverted, which, you know, because I could see, like, I have super extroverted friends who, like, just thrive, like, people who are incredibly enthusiastic about life, and they just, like, thrive out of going to concerts and all these kinds of things, and, like, I'm like, dude, that's too much for me. And yet what I'm hearing here is that this is true for all of us. Just maybe the experiences are, you know, obviously self-selected by what interests us. But I'm geeking out. I'm geeking out. Well, yeah, and Charlie, I wonder too, like, because I know how artistic you are, like, I would imagine you get a lot of, like, one of your strengths is probably like appreciation of beauty or some sort of like artistic appreciation. And that's what that sounds like to me, is like a really cool art project, which is an experience, right? Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I can justify that.
And this first paper, though, was like, well, maybe that's just like for all of us, like, very well-off people. You know, we're all here at Yale. We have lots of awesome stuff. Maybe we have as much awesome stuff as we need, and therefore, like, getting new awesome stuff isn't going to help us. Like, so what we might as well invest in experiences. But the idea is, like, maybe people from lower incomes or people who don't have as much stuff, maybe if they got stuff that would make them happier. So maybe it's like really just a function of being, you know, a richer kind of folk that we get this. And so to test this, they looked across different financial incomes to say, does this pattern hold across everybody? And here was what they found, that hash marked bar is the different experiences that you purchase. And what they find is that every level of income, experiential purchases make us happier than material ones, but it does in fact get bigger as you get to higher and higher salaries. So again, thinking back to what we learned the first time, most of your median incomes is going to be around $76,000. Like, you guys are definitely going to be way better off investing in experiences than in material stuff. And so it does seem like investing in experiences is good, but there's a couple other ways that investing in experiences allow us to get over our hedonic adaptation. And one of these is that when we're thinking about purchasing different experiences, so when you're like sitting at your computer doing your problem set and you're thinking about your spring break vacation, that can actually make you very happy, right? And so researchers hypothesize that maybe this is another way that experiences help us, is that even before we have the experience, the anticipation of it, thinking about it, actually gives us a little happiness boost.
Dude, that's so true, because my dad and I, when he was having his, like, we discovered he had, like, he needed like 5 heart bypasses and he was going into a surgery. We started planning a trip to an island in the Bahamas that's populated by like pigs that have become wild, but like you can go there and like swim with the pigs. Look it up on YouTube, it's amazing. But just like the talking about it, the planning around it, like it felt like, his sickness aside, and like it was obviously like a optimistic hope thing for us, but that aside, like it just felt so good, like chewing into a like wonderful experience. Right, exactly, Charlie. Like, who wouldn't want to go swimming with pigs? Who wouldn't? Who wouldn't? And if you don't want to, I'm judging you very harshly, because pigs are amazing. See, that's the thing, is it's so, okay, so there's, you go to, it's not hard to figure, like, it's not hard to find out, but basically you end up going to a main island, and then there are tour groups that ferry you to this teeny little island where the pigs live. and you want to bring water for the pigs because they don't have enough fresh water on the island. And you want to go really early in the morning because if you go after other tourists have been there, the pigs have been all fed and they're just going to sleep underneath the trees. So you want to get there when they're super hungry, super early, and then they're going to be paying attention to you and playing with you, hopefully. Hopefully that is the goal. Yes. Right? Yes. There's so many wonderful things to do in the world.
Is this really true? Well, this is what Kumar and colleagues tried to look at. They had people think about some experiential or material purchase you plan to make soon. So you could say, think about the next kind of big purchase you're going to make, either a thing or like some sort of experience that you plan to have. And you say, how does the anticipation of this purchase make you feel? And they said, are you feeling kind of happier, like you're feeling more excited? Or is the kind of feeling of anticipation bad? Is it more like impatience? And then they also very explicitly had people rate whether it's pleasant or unpleasant.
I actually think this, so Charlie, I'm thinking through your pigs and pool, right? And I'm like, okay, if this was real, Charlie owning this thing would hedonically adapt to it and get used to it and not appreciate and not get the same like well-being boost out of having a fucking cool pool with pigs, right? Now, if Charlie owned that as a business, people like me would come and give you money to swim with your pigs, right? And like you're providing these I'm just like kind of amazed at my business brain is shifting to be like, what experiences can we create to boost people's well-being? So I'm just saying, if you're gonna own something for your own well-being, consider making it into a business. No! I reset it! Oh, boo! Boo! Hiss. Okay. Alright, this looks... Oh, no. No! Here we go.
Marked bar is the different experiences that you purchase. And what they find is that every level of income, experiential purchases make us happier than material ones, but it does in fact get bigger as you get to higher and higher salaries.
We're repeating a little
so
bit.
Again, thinking back to what we learned the first time, most of your
pigs,
median
Charlie.
incomes is going to be around $76,000.
We're no longer friends.
You guys are definitely
You're
going to
not
be
gonna
way
share
better
your
off
pigs with
investing
me.
in experiences than in material stuff. And so it does seem
I'm gonna
like
have a
investing in
competing pig
experiences is good, but there's a couple other ways that
we're
investing
really
in
far back.
experiences allow us to get over our hedonic problem set, and you're thinking that maybe this is another way that experiences help us, is that even before we have the experience, the anticipation of it, thinking about it, actually gives us a little happiness boost. Is this really true? Well, this is what Kumar and colleagues tried to look at. They had people think about some experiential or material purchase you plan to make soon. So you could say, think about the next kind of big purchase you're going to make, either a thing or like some sort of experience that you plan to have. And you say, how does the anticipation of this purchase make you feel? And they said, are you feeling kind of happier, like you're feeling more excited? Or is the kind of feeling of anticipation bad? Is it more like impatience? And then they also very explicitly had people rate whether it's pleasant or unpleasant. And so what do you find? Well, what they found is that if you look at the excitement levels, they're higher for experience than material, so it's more like excitement and less like kind of impatience to get it. And if you look at the pleasantness, it's almost like 2.5 times as pleasant to think about the fact that you're going to go on this cool ski trip or the fact that you're going to go to this awesome concert than it is that you're going to buy a new pair of shoes.
That blows my mind that the anticipation of an awesome purchase brings you less happiness and satisfaction than the anticipation of purchasing an experience. Oh, is it? That's what we're exploring. Did you do it? The science of well-being? Yeah, we're like watching part of it because it's free right now. Yeah, oh good, you liked it. That's awesome. I'm liking it so far for sure.
Or a nice Canada Goose jacket or something like that. Thinking about these experiential purchases makes us really happy. Finally, it seems like we really look forward to these experiential purchases in a way that we might not. And just the fact that you're a person that tends to do that tends to think about your future experiential purchases, that might make you happier than tending to be a materialistic person that tends to think about your next material purchases. And to test this, they use this cool technique that we'll see a few times in this course, which is called experience sampling. Basically what they do is they get people's cell phone number and they give them a little app, and every once in a while throughout the day, they'll send them a little blip that says check in and answer these questions. And usually they'll just ask something simple like, how happy are you feeling right now on a scale of 1 to 100? And this lets them tag, okay, what are the kinds of things you're doing in your day? Just a random day that let you think in terms of what's making you happy. And so if you said, you give your happiness rating, and then they ask you this question, hey, what were you thinking about? And you can go through, I was thinking about lunch, I was thinking about this stuff. Some people, just by chance, will be thinking about a future purchase. And they say, oh, that's great, now you're in our sample. And they say, was it causing you to experience excitement or impatience? Was it causing you to be pleasant or unpleasant? And then they tag what the purchase was. Was it a material purchase or an experiential purchase? And so here's what we find sort of mapping across these mean happiness ratings. That bar at the top is how happy you are. And what you find is when I ping you and I say, how happy are you? If you happen to be thinking about an experiential purchase, if you're thinking about the ski trip that's coming up, you are just necessarily happier than if you happen to be thinking about a material purchase that you were thinking of. And this is sort of coded for how much that purchase cost. So already we're seeing this happiness effect. But we see that that's because of two different things. One is that experiential purchases are making us feel more excited and less impatient. It's kind of like if you just bought this new set of shoes, you kind of want it to come in, you like putting on Amazon Prime, you're like, when is this going to get here? It feels really impatient. But in the context of experiential purchases, we're feeling excited. And then same thing about pleasantness. They just feel better to wait for these experiential things than not. The sad thing, though, is that this phenomena, which seems to be pretty robust across a couple studies, that we like waiting for experiential purchases, and that we're going to like them better, is another thing that falls prey to this thing that our mind delivers to us, intuitions that are just wrong, because we don't actually believe that this is the case. And this is what a set of other researchers looked at. They said, these findings feel wrong to me. Let's check and see if this is really the case. And they had people make predictions, like think about an experiential purchase or a material purchase that you're about to make, and do you think your money is going to be well spent? You have to forecast that, and then they come back and ask you later, how was it? And so if you're thinking about a forecast before you buy something, you have the intuition that probably some of you are having when I'm telling you these data, which is like, yeah, those studies are all well and good, but that's not what I feel about my purchases. In fact, people are forecasting that they're going to be about half as happy with an experiential purchase as a material purchase. They forecast that they're going to think it was half as good money less spent. Dude. But when you actually look at people's real post-consumption ratings, they're higher 2 weeks after post-consumption for the experience, and even 4 weeks after post-consumption. Long after this thing has evaporated away and you still have that stuff that you bought, you're still happier with that experience that you've had before. But again, we don't seem to realize
I feel called out too.
So with that, we can say one strategy already that all of you should adopt moving forward for all your future purchases to make you happy, which is that because you don't adapt to experiences, they're going to make you happier than stuff will. Even if your intuition is telling you other.
I'm wondering if this is one of the reasons why I've been struggling with staying at home, because I love experiences and I've already built my life somewhat around having those. And I mean, when you're stuck in your house, I feel like the normal avenues of my experiences have been gone. So now that I know this, I'm going to be super, this is what I'll do later when I said I was going to journal. I'll explore what new experiences can I have from my home? Oh, I'm excited.
Otherwise, that's just wrong. Really, you're going to be happier thinking about experiences. So as you think about how you're going to treat yourself by buying yourself stuff, switch it around.
Maybe there's
think
an
of a cool thing to do,
experience
ski
we can
trip and so
plan
on.
for
Think of free
after
things to do
we
that
get
are
freedom.
experiences, and then you save money on top of it. Anyway, great individual strategy to get you going. But that works for, and so it's actually worth noting that experiences are better than stuff, not just because you don't adapt to them. They're actually better for other reasons too, which makes this one of the most powerful techniques you're going to learn about in this course. One of the reasons they're better than stuff is that when you tell people about your experiences, it's just way more fun for everybody else than when you tell people about your stuff. Right? So imagine you hear about somebody's cool ski trip. That's actually fun. But when you hear about somebody's new Canada Goose jacket and how warm it's making them, that's just boring, and it kind of sucks. And it turns out that this is one of the reasons that experiential purchases are better, is that it helps other people resonate with you. To test this, Leif Van Voven and colleagues actually did this study where they had friends rate hearing about other people's experiential or material purchases. And if you have them rate your overall impression of that person, that is higher after talking about experiences than material stuff. If you have other friends rate how psychologically well adjusted are you, you get people to think you're much more psychologically well adjusted if you invest in experiences than material things.
That is so weird. Why?
And here's one of my favorite slides you'll see today. This is a list of the adjectives that people spontaneously talk about after their friends told them about a material purchase or an experiential purchase. And you can see much more kind of negative one on that side. You know, he's self-centered. 33% of people after hearing what this say, oh, he's self-centered, he's insecure, blah, blah. But over here it's like, oh, he's humorous and friendly and open-mindedness. You actually make people think you're twice as humorous by investing in experiences. And so this is kind of additional reason, not even about hedonic adaptation, why experiences are better, is like people just dig you better if you're the kind of person that invests in experiences.
That's crazy.
But there's a final reason, which harkens back to something we talked to last time, that experiences are better than material stuff, and that experiences are less susceptible to social comparison. It's harder to compare your ski trip versus somebody else's ski trip. It's much easier to compare your car versus somebody else's car. And that means that if we're the type of people who invest in experiences, we're less susceptible to social comparison. And we know this from a cool study by Howell and Hill, who actually did the normal things, talk about an experience or a material purchase you just made, and do all these ratings for it about your happiness.
Yeah,
and when they do that, when they ask you about how happy it made you, how was this money well spent, and so on, they find the same kind of thing that everybody else finds. They kind of replicate these other findings where experiential purchases are also better. But they find two other things that have to do with your social relations after that. The first is, did that purchase make other people happier? Or was it just you? And here you're starting to see an even bigger effect, that experiential purchases just seem to make other people happy. Sometimes it's because they include other people in a way that stuff often doesn't. Sometimes it's just through telling people about your crazy experience and it makes other people happy. But even more important is the fact that when you take measures of social comparison, do you feel you do kind of compare your experiences versus somebody else? Do you feel envious of somebody else? Now that's the only spot where these measures start to flip. And so you're just less likely to socially compare your experiences with others. And that means one of those annoying features of your mind that's constantly making you feel less good about what you have isn't in operation for experiences in the same way it is for stuff.
What? A pop quiz, guys! What are some ways of overcoming hedonic adaptation for things that we buy? Investing in material things that are really cheap. Hey, Tiki, that was your strategy. Investing in experiences. Stop investing in material things. Yes. Stop investing in all non-essential items, including material things and experiences. I think I've done this accurately.
And so all these things suggest that the first strategy you can do to kind of make yourself happier is to invest in experiences rather than stuff. If you move forward with all your purchases into the future doing that, you're going to be better off.
Whee! You guys! I like that. Man, yeah, that was... I'm like having a hard time like holding back and not watching the next video, but that will be on Tuesday. So hey, yay, go puppies! Yeah, I gotta like think through the implications of this. Like, not only does choosing experiences over stuff help us feel happier longer and more satisfied and excited, but it also helps people like us more, right? Like, we're more socially enticing and agreeable, and it helps counteract that very like trap heavy social comparison that we all go through. Wow. What? You found blue shoe? What? How did that happen? That's amazing. I'm telling you, Charlie, get all white things and then get dye and dye it. And then it'll be the exact blue you want and they'll all match perfectly. Oh, just saying. Oh, that was so cool. Okay.